Okay, so now let's look at IRB and research ethics. An IRB, or an institutional review board, does not approve CRISPR as a whole. So instead, the IRB reviews specific protocols in which this CRISPR technology is being used on subjects. So instead, an IRB reviews specific study protocols to ensure that all ethical and regulatory standards are being met. This would include an informed consent, making sure patients understand the research and agree to it voluntarily. This informed consent form is something that's given to the patient, a copy is given to them, and that usually contains a title of the study, the protocol number, a sponsor, which is like the pharmaceutical company sponsoring that, and an investigator. That would be the main PI, the doctor overseeing all sorts of study-related procedures. The IRB also reviews, the risk benefit, ensuring that all potential benefits justify any risk in the study, and subject protections, safeguarding the rights, privacy, and well-being of all research participants. If CRISPR is being used in research involving humans, that particular study must meet IRB approval before any part of that study can begin. In short, an IRB doesn't approve or deny CRISPR as a whole. It just makes sure that any research using it meets the highest ethical standards for human subjects. Privacy and data protection. CRISPR research depends heavily on genomic sequencing data. This information is profoundly personal and identifiable, because a person's genome can uniquely identify them, even when it's anonymous, or when the study is blinded, or when it's randomized. This kind of data is extremely sensitive. That's why genetic information is protected under the laws like HIPAA. Here in the United States, we have HIPAA, which safeguards personal health information. Genetic data isn't just scientific material. It's a personal data that reveals deep insights as to who we are and what makes us who we are. Back in 2015, the CRISPR moratorium highlighted exactly this concern, the need to protect individual privacy before pushing the technology forward. It reminded the scientific community, that before advancing to any powerful tools or technology like CRISPR, we must pause and assess any potential harms. In short, any collection or use of genetic data for CRISPR research raises significant data protection concerns. Protecting individuals' privacy isn't just an ethical requirement, it's essential to maintaining the trust between the subject and the research, and overall it's important to maintain that integrity in research. What now? As we've been discussing, this CRISPR technology has raised a lot of scientific and ethical questions. This germline editing, that's again editing of DNA of embryos in a way that can be passed down to future generations. So it is hereditary. Anything that's edited will be passed down. It's hereditary. But of course, there was someone who pushed these boundaries. So in 2018, a Chinese scientist, I hope I don't butcher this really bad, his name is He Jiankyu. So he broke this international norm by using CRISPR to edit human embryos. And because of this, these two embryos developed into twin girls. So they are the first humans ever with intentional edited genes. What the scientist was trying to achieve, he targeted this specific gene called CCR5. For my understanding, it's what affects how HIV enters the cells. So by changing this gene, his goal was to make these twin girls resistant to HIV. However, the CCR5 gene also plays other roles into the immune system, not just for HIV. So tampering with this gene, could make it's unpredictable what side effects could these twin girls potentially have. This experiment, of course, called for global outrage. Scientists and ethicists around the world condemned the actions of the scientists, calling it, unethical and reckless. Since then, many countries have banned and heavily restricted this germline editing. This field has hit a pause for now, but as science and technology continue to advance, the question remains, when is it right to edit life? Should we even edit life itself? In conclusion, the 2015 CRISPR moratorium, it refers to a temporary pause that scientists called for this CRISPR technology on human editing. This obviously has raised several ethical questions. For example, should scientists be allowed to edit human germline at all? How should we determine when it's safe enough to proceed? How does this quote-unquote hold impede life-saving research? So that's a question from the other side of the coin. How should society prevent any inequality in the enhancement of, if this came to be moving forward, how would we prevent that? Therapy and enhancement, when do we draw the line? Research is not always just black and white. There's a lot of gray area in there. And can we ever reach a consensus on gene editing? Can that ever be achieved? So there's a lot of heavy ethical questions regarding all of this, and it's what made us gravitate towards this specific subject. So we really hope you guys enjoyed this and hope you found it a little bit interesting, just like we did. If you have any questions, we'll go ahead and answer them in the threads from the Brightspace. Thank you so much for listening in.